Okay, so here we go. So you all made your predictions or your feelings, but what do you think about when you saw this crazy picture? So now we're going to go, and if we look, I'll show you quickly the table of contents. You can see all the different chapters here, and you can see some scribbling on this page, and then you see this writing, it looks like in print, little kids print, I am queen of all dolls, with many exclamation marks. And then here is your first picture. So if you look, that's Annabelle, and she's sitting in a soap dish, like in your shower. And I'm thinking that head right there might be, whose do you think? It's definitely not Kate's. I'm thinking Nora. But let's see. Chapter 1, called Miami Beach A-Go-Go. Annabelle doll sat in the soap dish high above the bathtub in the Palmer's house. Since Nora Palmer was just below taking her bath, yep, told you it was Nora. We know Kate would never put Annabelle in the tub. Annabelle had to hold still, still, still. She could not be caught moving. But she was desperate to see the cause of the splashing and the shouting that she heard. "Shark! Shark attack!" cried Nora. "Look out, dollies! Get out of the way!" There was a tremendous splash and the sound of sloshing as water hit the tile floor of the bathroom. "Everyone, out of the ocean!" she continued. "Nora, come on, dollies, come on back to the beach." For a moment, Annabelle heard nothing, even though she knew full well that the entire Funcraft family was in the tub. Like Annabelle, they could not laugh or talk or move about on their own. Not while Nora was in the room. Annabelle thought longingly of the dollhouse, her nice, quiet home, and of Kate Palmer, Nora's 9-year-old sister, the owner of the doll family in their house. Kate never played noisy games with the dolls. She merely posed them in their rooms of their ancient house, and occasionally she talked to them or rearranged the furniture. But Nora, she was 5, and the owner of the Funcrafts. She invented games like Miami Beach A-Go-Go and Rancher Family. She was only supposed to play games with the Funcrafts, who were made of plastic. But often, she crept into Kate's room and snatched up Annabelle and maybe one of the other dolls. Mama or Papa or Nanny or Uncle Doll or Auntie Sarah or Bobby or Baby Betsy. And the next thing Annabelle knew, she was riding a hideous old plastic horse or being driven into the bathroom in a Barbie camper. Since the dolls are over 100 years old and made of china, dressed in antique clothing, trimmed with lace and ribbons, Nora's games could be dangerous. However, Annabelle admitted sometimes they looked exciting, and the Funcrafts certainly enjoyed them. Annabelle decided she simply had to see what was going on in the water below. Ever so slowly, she pulled herself up, straighter and straighter. She bent over just a bit and slid her eyes downward. Annabelle didn't know much about baths, but she was fairly certain that a person taking a bath was supposed to be naked, and Nora was not naked. She was wearing a flowered bathing suit, blue swimming goggles, and a pair of rubber flippers. Floating around her in the tub were part of the farm set, 2 cows, a chicken, and a sheep. 6 small boats. Tiffany Funcraft, who was Annabelle's best friend, and Tiffany's brother Bailey, her mom, her dad, and baby Brittany. Nora had snapped off their plastic everyday clothes and snapped on the contents of the Funcraft accessory pack 214A. The dolls were now wearing bathing suits, caps, and sunglasses. Annabelle couldn't be sure, but she thought the Funcrafts were smiling. "Run for your lives, dolly," said Nora suddenly, as she stood up in the tub. "It's a tidal wave." Nora dropped into the water with an enormous splash, and the Funcrafts rode the crest of the wave from one end of the tub to another. Annabelle felt foolish, unnecessarily sitting high in the soap dish with no role in this game. True, Nora had stuck a paper cap with a little pair of sunglasses on her, but no part of Annabelle was plastic, and no part of her belonged in the water. If she were to fall into the water, her glue would become unstuck, her ribbons would untie, and her clothing would probably float away, maybe even go down the drain. So I'm thinking, If any of you ever took a tub and you splashed down in the tub and they made a tidal wave, and I'll show you the picture in a second, I'm thinking maybe water got all over the bathroom floor. And in my house, that would be a big problem. But I wonder what happens in Nora's. But here's your picture of the tidal wave when Nora came splashing down. Look at all the fun crafts and the rancher family in the big tidal wave. And it's looking like somebody got thrown out of the tub with some of the water I'm expecting is on the floor. So Annabelle was relieved that Nora knew enough to keep her dry, and she was pleased at least to have been given a paper cap and glasses. But she didn't like feeling silly and useless, watching from the distance while Tiffany floated and rode the waves. This was how it always was with Tiffany, though, thought Annabelle. It was one of the things that set her apart from her best friend. Annabelle remembered the years and years and years when they had been the only dolls living at 26 Weatherby Lane. Her family and their dollhouse had been shipped across the ocean from England to the United States in 1898 to be a present for a little girl named Gertrude, Kate's grandmother. Kate had grown up, Kate's great-great-grandmother. Kate's grandma, Catherine, who lived with the Palmers, and then Catherine had Annie, who was Kate's mother, and then Annie had Kate and Nora. During all that time, Annabelle had known no living doll except the ones in her family. Why, she used to ask her mother, why are there any other alive dolls here? Not all dolls take the oath, Mama would reply. The doll code of honor, it is serious. A lot of responsibility comes with being a doll, a living doll, and many dolls just choose to be regular dolls. But not us, said Annabelle. Not us, Mama agreed. Annabelle lived in the human's house for more than 100 years before the Funcrafts arrived. She'd been glad she was a living doll, but sometimes she had felt lonely, especially after Auntie Sarah disappeared. Annabelle loved her mother and her father. She loved her brother Bobby and her sister, Baby Betsy. Baby Betsy was an enormous doll from a different doll set, but who cared? She loved Nanny, who helped take care of her, and Bobby and Baby Betsy. And she loved Uncle Doll, but she wished for another girl doll her age, someone who would be her best friend. That was before she met Tiffany. This is what Annabelle was thinking when below her she heard a splash and a whoosh as Nora had sat down in the tub, and suddenly she found herself eye to eye with Tiffany, who'd been shot up in the air by the force of the water. Woo-hee! Hi, Annabelle, called Tiffany in a tiny doll voice that she knew Nora couldn't hear over the noise of the tidal wave. Then she dropped back into the tub. And here she is. It does look like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Reminds me of going on the beach, and you go on the beach and you sit in one of these tubes and you can ride the wave into the shore. Did any of you ever do that? It's really good if the water's warm. If the water's cold, it's not my favorite thing to do. But I'm thinking a tub must be warm water. Annabelle tried very hard not to laugh. What, she thought, what would she do without Tiffany? The Funcrafts had lived at the Palmers for less than a year, and already Annabelle couldn't think of how she could manage to get along her entire century without her. Auntie Sarah had been around Annabelle's life, and it was interesting. Auntie Sarah liked to explore. She liked to leave the dollhouse and investigate things. And in the larger world of Human's house, she used to come back from her adventures and tell Annabelle about history and current events and famous women explorers and other things she had learned from listening to the radio or trying to get a peek at newspapers or magazines or library books. But one day, almost 46 years ago, now, Auntie Sarah had left the dollhouse and hadn't returned. Annabelle and her family had been too afraid to go searching for her. Doll State, Ninny would remind Annabelle. That always made Annabelle feel grumpy, probably because she had been in Doll State more often than any other dolls. If a human saw a doll moving, or thought she saw one moving, then poof, the doll was rendered motionless and lifeless, like an ordinary doll, for 24 hours. This meant the dolls felt free to move about only when they were absolutely certain they wouldn't be seen. It also meant that whenever Annabelle asked about going on a hunt for Auntie Sarah, the answer was no. During the long, lonely time when Auntie Sarah had been missing, Annabelle had sometimes wondered something horrible had happened and wondered if her aunt had been a little too careless and landed not in doll state, but permanent doll state. Permanent doll state, a phrase that the grown-ups didn't even like to hear or say very often. Mama and Papa usually said PSD in a whisper look and then looked down at their shoes. There's no such thing, Bobby and Annabelle used to say, but they weren't so sure. PDS, like doll state, hearkened back to the oath, the doll code of honor, which was meant to protect and preserve the secret life of the dolls. The code reminded us, Nanny would tell Bobby and Annabelle, to be careful, that there are consequences if we are not careful. We might be punished with doll state, or even, she would lower her voice to a whisper, PDS. Belly flop, cried Nora from below. Annabelle leaned over just far enough to see Nora stand up and drop one fun crest down to the water, where she landed on her tummy with a smack. Annabelle settled back to her soap dish. Her thoughts returned to the lonely years when Auntie Sarah was missing. Annabelle was afraid she would never see her aunt again. She even realized she could no longer remember her very well. The fun crafts had arrived and everything changed. The fun crafts had been a birthday present for Nora when she turned 5. Their big pink plastic house had been placed in Nora's bedroom, which was down the hall from Kate's. Before Annabelle knew it, she and Tiffany were sneaking back and forth between the two rooms whenever they felt it safe to do so. It had taken Annabelle long to tell her new friend about her missing aunt, to show her Auntie Sarah's journal, and she recently discovered, if for Tiffany and the journal, Annabelle now thought Auntie Sarah might be still missing in the attic. Annabelle was about to recall that creepy night in the dim, musty attic when suddenly, there's my favorite word, that lets us know something's going to happen. So I want you to think about it. What do you think is going to happen? They're in the tub, or Annabelle's watching from above. She's not supposed to be there when suddenly something's going to happen. What do you think it is? Now at school, I'd say turn to the person next to you, make a prediction about what you think is going to happen. So if your mom or dad are there, or maybe your brother or your sister or somebody, turn to them and tell them, what do you think is going to happen? All right, let's find out. When suddenly the door to the bathroom flew open and banged against the wall. Kate stood in the entry, her hands on her hip. Ooh, doesn't know Kate's angry. She looked at the puddles of water, at Nora in her bathing suit, the flippers, the goggles, at the fun crafts, the boats, the animals in the tub, and then she saw Annabelle in the soap dish, wearing the paper cap and the glasses. Nora! Exclaimed Kate. What are you doing? It's almost your bedtime. Kate pulled the plug in the tub, and Annabelle heard water begin to gurgle down the drain. And what is Annabelle doing in here? She shouldn't be near the water. What if she fell in? She's not like your dollies, Nora. No, thought Annabelle. I'm nothing like Tiffany. Nora stood up in the tub, dripping water down onto the fun crafts. That's why she's sitting up there, said Nora. She's out of the way. She's just watching. Annabelle's porcelain face reddened. Just watching. Sometimes Annabelle felt that was the only thing she was good at. Kate leaned across the tub and gently reached for Annabelle. Come on, she said. It's your bedtime. I think I'm going to give you a quiet night tonight. This meant, Annabelle knew, that after Kate had settled the dolls in their bed, she was going to close up the front door of the house, lock the tiny heart-sharp padlock with a key. Kate didn't do this very often, and Annabelle was glad. While at night closed into their house gave the dolls freedom to move about and talk. It also meant that Annabelle was locked in, and Tiffany was locked out. Annabelle sighed. She looked between Kate's fingers at the fun crafts below. She saw that Tiffany had floated to one end of the tub and was smiling a teeny smile as she twirled around and around in the whirlpool of the drain. Tiffany probably didn't even realize that Annabelle was taken away. Annabelle sighed again, feeling very small and left out, but she made a decision. If she didn't like being left out, then she would do something about it. She just didn't know what that would be. And here, I'm going to show you two pictures. The first one I'm going to show you is Kate scooping Annabelle out of the tub. There's when she grabbed her by the hand and took her off. And then your last picture is there's Tiffany standing laying at the drain at the end of Miami Beach A Go-Go. So before I come back with the next thing, I want you to now write to me in Seesaw. Have you ever been left out? Whatever happened when you were left out? What was a feeling that you might have had? So write about a time or sometime when either you felt left out or maybe even you noticed somebody else was left out. And what could you do to solve that problem? Because Annabelle certainly often feels left out with Tiffany a lot. Tiffany can do so many more things than she's capable of doing. And we often sometimes get left out of things and it doesn't feel so good inside and for whatever reason. So write down what you're thinking. Maybe it's a good thought, maybe it's a bad thought about how you either solve the problem for yourself if you were left out or how you help somebody else do that. And I'll come back and read chapter 2, and it's called A Mission. So then you can also write a mission. A mission is when you go to do something. A mission when you try to find something or to look for something or accomplish something. So what kind of mission would they be doing? Make a prediction too. So you have two things you're doing. I'll write on Seesaw. Write about a time that you felt left out or you noticed somebody else did and what you did to help them or yourself. And a mission. What kind of mission? Kate and Tiffany, Annabelle, Bobby, maybe Betsy. What kind of mission are they going to go on? Or who do you think is going to go on that mission? I don't know. I hope you guys are well. I miss you lots. Now I have to go at 11 o'clock. I have a video meeting with all of the second grade teachers from Jarrick School. Miss you. Have a great one. Bye.